This past week was the first week of Elul's the first week of the Hebrew month of Elul. It is one of my favorite weeks of the year because I have the pleasure, the good fortune of being able to work at a yeshiva. I'm employed by a Rosh Yeshiva, and I get to witness the new crop that comes in every Elul. The 12th graders that just graduated high school coming to a real yeshiva where it isn't English in the afternoons. They aren't short class periods, but a full 10-hour day of learning where a person is by himself. He has to do his own laundry. He has to secure his own meals. And he has to really meet himself for the first time when it's just him alone with his Gemara. The Bacher will learn a lot about himself and the transformation that goes on between when the student arrives until when he graduates, often 3 years later. There's nothing to compare it to. It's like the birth of a new baby. This past week, it always makes me chuckle, the first week of Elul, because everyone shows up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed with their new shoes, their new haircuts, ready to make a good impression, their black sneakers, their Lululemon pants, the perfect haircut. They're all ready to go, ready to take on life and put their best foot forward. I remember those good old days, and I feel blessed to still witness them, to still be a part of them, even though I am a nearly 30-year-old, burnt-out old fellow, far away from my tight haircut and youthful vigor that I had when I came through yeshiva. But all of this brought to my attention an idea that Rabbi Yerucham talks about in this week's Parsha that I'd like to share with you. It's an idea about how a Jew grows, how a Jew steigs, the process that it takes from beginning to end. And to unpack this lesson, I first want to tell you just how brilliant the Parsha is, how action-packed it is, and then we're going to select the topic we're going to discuss and then deliver the idea. The Parsha is Parashas Shoftim, which outlines the appointment of judges, law enforcement, police officers. We need to make sure that nobody is bribed. There is no favoritism. We need meticulous investigation of crimes according to halacha. We need to go to Sanhedrin to judge cases, the great Jewish grand court. Our parsha prohibits sorcery, destruction. It commands an appointment of a melech, of a king. We get the laws of war, some laws of karbanos. We learn about cities of refuge where an accidental murder can flee to, before the very fascinating halacha of the Egla Arufa, where there is a dead body laying in between two cities and we need to figure out who is the culprit. And we need to have a sense of communal responsibility towards preventing harm. But I want to focus today about the war and the laws therein. The pasuk says, "Kisik el ir lilachem ele v'karasa elecha eleha l'shalom." First, offer some peace terms. V'haya im shalom ta'ancha. The pasuk tells us how to respond based on how they respond. V'im lo tashlim imach v'asas imcha milchama v'tzarata aleha. There's a certain time where you need to lay siege. God will protect you. The psukim, they continue how you should deal with the plunder, with the booty, and with all of the livestock and everything in the town and the spoils. There's further guidelines about how to deal with different cities. And there are certain nationalities, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, that we act in war a bit differently than all the other nations. Laman, asher lo yilamdu eschem lasos, and all this is in order not to create a society that will possibly learn from the enemies if you allow them to live, and possibly there'll be a cancerous, non-Israelite type of root or origin to the sprouting cities in the Promised Land, which will not be tolerated. And then here comes our pasuk that we're looking for. Kisatzur el ir yomim rabim lilache molel letavsa. When you set siege, and you have to set this siege up for a long time surrounding the city, there's a certain law that you must keep in the sieging. Lo tashches es eitz lindoyach halav garzen. Do not destroy its trees, wielding the axe against them. Don't destroy the trees. Save the trees. Hug the trees. Why? Kimimenu tochal va'oso lo tichrotz. From these trees you can eat them, but you mustn't cut them down. Why? Why are we loving and saving the trees? Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh. Lavoi mipanecha b'matzor. Puzzling words. For the man is a tree of the field, that you should come in front of him in the besieged city. That's what that literally translates. And if that doesn't make sense to you, that's because, that doesn't make sense. The translation that we need to come up with here, we must draw upon the Rishonim to try to make sense of this pasuk. What does it mean that the man is a tree and therefore you should not come in front of him to kill him? Rashi explains that you reuse the word ki, ha'adam eitz hasadeh, to mean possibly or perhaps. And you read the pasuk. Is the tree a man that it will be able to hide itself away when you come into battle? You read the verse with a certain question, inquisitively. It's a bitmia in Hebrew. So the pasuk is telling us, don't destroy the trees because they can't fend for themselves. And it seems like you gotta take it easy on them. They can't run in to hide it. Gotta play fair game. A very interesting reading of the pasuk. The Even Ezra says, "Lafi daiti she'ein lanu tzarich l'chol zeh." You don't need this pshat in Rashi. There's an easier way to unpack the pasuk for the simplistic approach. V'zeh pirusho ki mimenu toichal va'oso lo techrot. Don't destroy the trees. Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh. Because you reuse the word ki as the regular because a person is a tree of the field. What does that mean? That v'hatam, we need trees to live. Ki chaye ben adam hu eitz hasadeh. We need the photosynthesis and the oxygen of the trees and the fruits and the wood. Mankind, human life forms are supported by trees. So therefore, take heed not to destroy the trees. Sounds like an idea of compassion or gratitude. But this pasuk is really a goldmine. Jewish mystics, spiritual deans across the world, and God-thirsty Jews see a powerful lesson in this pasuk. When you read the verse plainly, the pasuk sticks out and there's really no going back. The pasuk never reads the same way again. What Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, the spiritual dean, brings to our attention, and so many of the other great Torah educators, they tell us that you need to see that hidden in this pasuk is the growth of a man. The Torah has 70 different levels of wisdom and many different ways to interpret psukim, and one of the things that's sitting out here for us to harp, for us to gather, is that ha'adam eitz hasadeh, that a man is a tree. In the middle of this pasuk, in regards to the sieging and the laws of cutting down trees, we are exposed to the way that a Jew is supposed to grow and steig in his own path to Hashem. And how is it? It's to steig like a tree Because a man grows like a tree. Ki ha'adam, the person, eitz hasadeh. You don't read it in the way that Rashi does in this inquisitive, question-filled, is it possible for the tree to run away? Is he like a man? But rather, ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh. Man and trees are very interconnected. In fact, their growth process mirrors each other. The way a tree grows, extends, widens, thickens, the way that it steigs, we should look at and take notes from, because that's the way that we should steig, says the great Mashgiach. So how is it that you actually build a tree? If we can figure that out, then we could figure out maybe some tips how to build ourselves into towering timber trees or cedars of Babylon. Well, to plant a tree is a very arduous and specific process, as you may have guessed. It takes planning. It takes preparation. It takes research to figure out the native trees and where they are well suited to the local climate. It takes knowledge of the soil type, the sunlight conditions. It takes understanding the days and the sunlight when the dormant season hits. All of this is happening long before you even plant the seed. And once you do plant the seed, there's untangling the roots, girdling the roots, backfilling the hole, eliminating air pockets, applying mulch, organic mulch according to some, watering generously, providing slow, deep watering, encouraging the roots to grow downward. Staking is needed sometimes, but enough about the trees. And what I want to show you is that to build a person, we need many of the same steps, but we don't need to make them up. What's fascinating is that when you look throughout the oral and written law, you'll find countless of references to how a person and Judaism grows like a tree, and you actually get clued into how to do these steps. Which is first, you know what you do? After you've figured out your location, which already we are well aware that location, where you choose to plant yourself as a Jew will have long-lasting ramifications. We know that not all places are created equal. There is spiritual sunlight in some cities that shines a whole lot brighter than in other cities. We know that if you plant yourself next to some sort of oil rig, some sort of immoral bystander, it can send spiritual cancer into the seeds that you're trying to plant. So the location that you choose to plant yourself is of utmost importance. Bava Kama 17a shows us, Amar Rabbi Yerucham Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Mai dichsev ashreichem zeroye al kol mayim mishlolchei regel ashor v'hachamar, a pasuk in Yeshaya that teaches that happy are you that sow beside all waters, that send forth the feet of the ox and the donkey. Well, the Gemara explains to us, how do you do shenemar ashreichem zoireya? How do you do zoireya? How do you do planting? Ein zeria ela tzedakah. The way that you begin your process, it sounds like, is you build it on righteousness. You build it on kindness. You build it on straightness and charity. You don't need a guess. The Zariah, you know how the song goes. The way that you plant also needs to be taken into account. Hazoirim bedima berina yiktsoiru. We have a Mishnah, a pasuk. You'll say it. Hazorim bedina berina yiktsoiru. The way that you plant yourself. If you plant yourself with tears, well then berina yiktsoiru, you will gather what you have planted with happiness. This screams at us that when it's your first week in Elul Zman and you show up bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and ready to go. But the Zman gets hard. The times get tough. The planting process sometimes causes tears. Hazoyrim bedima, when you work yourself hard with discipline to put in the time, the work, and the effort, that causes tears. It's painful. It's arduous. It's a construction zone in a yeshiva or wherever you choose to plant yourself. Don't give up and don't be discouraged from the tears, because barina yiktzoru, when you plant it with tears, meaning you're doing it right, it's those people that will gather what they have planted with merriment, with happiness, with joy. Barina yiktzoru, with song. After you've planted yourself, you figured out where you're to call home, where you're going to plant your spiritual edifice. You've picked your location. You've also put in the effort to start planting yourself. And now takes step number 2. You need klita. You need absorption. You need this very unique process where the seed begins to undergo a critical process, which involves the sprouting of the seed after a period of dormancy. There's a process of some complex steps triggered by what scientists call specific environmental cues, which is short for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, the omnipresent. But this klita process is when those first buds start to show. Tzadik katomar yifrach, the righteous, they bloom like a date palm. Ke'erez balvonon yizke, Tehillim 92:14. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. The germination has begun. Shesulim beveis Hashem. Shesulim means germination. That's how the great ones explain it. Shesulim beveis Hashem. You start to flourish in the courts of our God. You begin to keep yourself in the right place, and your heart begins to not despise having to wake up early to go to find your seat, to go to find your Gemara, but begins a whole new chapter of where you can kind of see some light, some clarity. You kind of start to enjoy things. The seeds have begun to percolate, and sprout. Your soul has begun to germinate. Steiging is happening. These mishalim, these dimyonim, these parables, that ha'adam eitz hasadeh, that man grows like a tree, it isn't just for one man, but also for man and collectively as a Jewish nation. We also sprout. Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, we grow like a tree. And Hashem gives us trees to learn from to build our Jewish nation. We build strong roots and we build on righteousness. Shir Ashirim, the Jewish people, we learn all about how Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they had foresight in building the Jewish people and where they selected to travel and to live, and where with divine providence did Hashem send them. Shir Ashirim im choimo hi nivne, oleha tiras kesev. If she were a wall, we would build upon it a silver battlement. V'im delas hi notzor aleh luach orez. We learn all about how the roots of the Jewish people, they have a strong root and foundation. Their walls are ironclad because we are built on a foundation of kindness, of Ram, of truth. That would be Yaakov. That would be our wholesomeness. That would be Ishtam, our truth. And Yitzchak, our gevura, our strength. The Jewish people build skyscrapers these days. And the learning sprouting that you see around the world, the spiritual massive structures, they all stand healthily because of our forefathers, because of what they created and the deep roots and foundation stones that they planted. Just Jeremiah 17:8 continues the whole parable. He shall be like a tree planted by water, sending forth its roots by a stream, not weary of the coming heat. Its leaves are ever fresh. Reb Aaron Cutler, ever fresh, building seeds of Torah in America that could so easily flourish because it's built upon a long-standing legacy and foundation of such organic, thick, healthy soil that's all built by Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It's organic soil built of truth, strength, and kindness. Balak saw this parable, and Balak saw this truth. My apologies. Balak heard this truth, but Bilam preached it. Bilam, the rotten Bilam, when he was tasked, hired to curse the Jews, and he failed. Well, he actually succeeded, if you ask us. But 23:9, he says, Ki rosh tzurim erenu umigvos ashurenu henam levadod yishkod uvagoyim lo yischashov. I see them from the mountaintops. Gaze on to them from the heights. There is a people that dwells apart, not reckoned among the nations. If you put the Shweki song aside and look down and see Rashi, Ki rosh tzurim erenu, what is it that Bilam saw that he was gazing upon? Ani mistakel b'roshesam. I look at their origin, their rachis, uv'tchila sharsheim, and the beginning of their root, their descent, their inception. V'ani roa elsam miyusodim v'chazokim. I see them strongly founded as yonder rocks. V'chazokim kitsurim ugvos, like large mountains. They were planted, strongly founded by their ancestors and ancestresses. Al yedei avos ve'imahos, by Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. This is a Medrash Tanchuma in Balak 12. Bilam saw this. That ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, the way health, fruit, peiros, and the Jewish people, and a Jew for that matter, any person grows, it happens like a tree. That you need proper seeding, proper germination, and klita, and absorption of the materials and the elements and minerals that you need. And on that, you start to build roots. Roots is what comes next. Roots are what Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov built that we get to have the peiros and further blossoming now. But roots is what I want to talk about, is what we need to create in our lives. The final step in our parable for mankind. Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh. Imri tzadik ki toiv ki prima alaleim yochelu. A person is hailing the righteous and enjoying seeing that he should eat the fruits of their work. That's what the prophet said. How does that happen? Well, we have to build strong roots. It's a Mishnah. We need to build a foundation. We need to burrow deep in the ground so we're unshakable, no matter what spiritual winds will blow. It's a Mishnah in Avos Parak Gimel Pasuk Yud Zayin. Hu haya omer. You'll see something novel here and a new way to see clearly how to plant strong roots. It's not what you think. Hu haya omer. Kol shechachmaso meruba mimaisav. Anyone whose wisdom is larger, weighs more than his actions. Lamahu daimeh, what is he similar to? Le'ilon sha'anafav merubim v'sharashav mu'atim. You are somebody that has anafav merubim, tons of branches, endless leafy, fruity branches. B'visharash of ma'atin. But you don't have actions? Then you have very small, flimsy, pathetic-looking roots. V'haruach ba'av oikartoi. And the wind will come and knock it over. V'hoifachtoi al panav, and flip it over on its head. Avol, but kol shemaisa merubim mechachmaso. Anyone whose actions, whose maisav are more, they outweigh your wisdom. Loma hu daima, to what is this compared to? Le'ilon sha'anafav mu'atim v'sharashav merubin. You are like a tree that has small fruits. Because you don't have much wisdom, but you have deeply burrowing, healthy, happy, robust roots because you have actions. And when you have actions, you have roots. And afilu kol aruchos sheba'olam ba'os v'noshavos bo. Any winds that will come your way, ein mezizin oso mimekomo, you will not budge. We see a powerful new idea here. That your roots are not your predetermined ideas. Your roots, the very roots of the Jewish people, weren't just the concepts of chesed and the ideologies of truth of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but the actions that they committed, the actions that they engaged in. It was the maisav, their actions, that created the foundation. And for us, we see that it doesn't take wisdom. You don't need to be bright to build strong roots. You need to do. It's a remarkable piece of chachma, don't you think? That wisdom is less rooting, less grounding than action? It seems that action is what we're after. Action is the goal. The succulent fruits will all come when you start to do what you need to do. You start, even with a heart that is turned off to Judaism, not very interested, but you choose a good locale. You start to open up to ideas. And then you start to engage in practices of mitzvos. You're building something that is a deeply rooted and will be a healthy, prosperous bastion of Torah growth and spirituality that will give off delicious, effervescent, succulent, fresh fruit. And the roots, it's from action. Isn't that fascinating? There are so many branches, no pun intended, of this idea. This big, seems like discipline. A whole sefer of chachma about trees that's all beneath the surface, planted in this pasuk, ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, that we grow like a tree. This gold mine here, that action, roots and not wisdom, unbelievable. It's remarkable how Hashem made the human body. And he interconnected it with our souls. And that if you want to create something, you don't need to be smart, you just need to do. You start running to shul even though you have no interest in shul. Eventually, good will come because you're building strong roots. Even if you aren't interested in what the rabbi is discussing, a Torah concept that seems complex, but if you put in the actions, you put in the work to go after it, you have strong roots. You have strong actions, and you're ready to build on that. Maisav. Actions is what we're after. Deeds. And every person needs strong roots because the winds, powerful winds, impure winds, they blow. Life humbles. If you have strong actions, then even if, God forbid, war should come your way, if you have strong actions, even if poverty or divorce should come your way, You can remain solid in what's important, and you can rework and decide how to go forward, and you won't just get totally pulled out of the ground and uprooted. But everything comes when you have strong roots, and roots are made by action. So the call to action, this Elul, is to engage in actions that even if you do not feel great about and your heart is still turned off to them, but do not give up on those actions and continue to go about your obligations. If the Daf Yomi doesn't light your heart up yet, keep going. If your learning schedule with your Chavrusa doesn't excite you yet, you're building roots and it's pain and it's Hazorim Bedima. Barina Yitzayru, you're putting in the work. You're burrowing towards the surface and you're about to burst through the top and have gushing geysers of H2O, of wood and trunks and branches and holiness and fruits and peros. So keep going. Ki adam eitz hasadeh. A profound takeaway that the growth that we so badly crave and need, Hashem has put 1 million examples of them in the world, and they're called trees. When you walk past a tree, notice them. Let it be a reminder to you that Zriya, Klita, building of Shoroshim, and eventually Peros, the seeding, the absorption, the germination, the sprouting, the burrowing of roots. We grow the same way. Grow smartly. Grow with foresight. Put in the necessary work early. Keep banging on the job and keep beating on your craft. And eventually, we too will have large standing cedars of Babylon, cedars of Lebanon with deliciously plump fruits. What an important lesson and fascinating takeaway from an unassuming pasuk about the laws of war. Never forget, always remember, and build smartly, because ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, man grows and steigs like a tree.
Kilam